Yo, what's up guys, and welcome to yet another video by Imagine Fantasy Football. This is going to be our third video in the 2021 full PPR running back ranking series. This time we're going to be going over number 13 to number 18. We're going to be talking through these guys, discussing through, and because these guys are not necessarily all agreed upon where they're ranked. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So right away at number 13, we have Najee Harris. Najee Harris drafted round 1, pick 24 in this 2020 in the last year's draft, and he was a beast in college, no denying it. He was Alabama's workhorse at running back, and with the Steelers getting rid of James Conner, and Najee Harris's only competition in training camp is really Benny Snell, and so it's kind of obvious this guy's going to win the starting job, and I think he's definitely has RB1 potential, if not an RB1 already.
Yeah, and with Najee, it's important to look at the Steelers' offensive line. It's been completely decimated. One thing I saw is that their last year's starting lineup in Week 1, everybody's gone. They don't have one guy, even though like they had some injuries to start. But just the fact that all 5 guys that started Week 1 are gone is something to point out. You know, Najee will definitely get a huge workload, primarily because there's no real competition for touches in the backfield. But the line is such a cause for worry here, so it's important to notice that.
Najee's going to be a pretty safe, like mid to high RB2 with some like low RB1 upside, but he's not going to be much more than that. And that really comes down to the O-line. Yes, he's going to have a ton of volume, but other than that, like what are you going to – it depends what he can do with that volume. And with his offensive line, as like bad as it is, they just cut David DeCastro a couple weeks ago. I mean, Najee Harris, you can't really trust that offensive line. And as most of us already know by now, running backs, their offensive line is basically the most important thing to see that goes about with your fantasy success. So while he's going to, because based on pure volume, he's going to be that mid to high RB2, I can't see him going to like that top 5 running back.
Yeah, and about Najee, we all ranked him at 13, like literally all of us except for Han. Han had him at 14 a bit later, but pretty much consensus that Najee Harris is going to be drafted at this running back spot at 13. All right, let's get right into it. The next one, we have CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE at running back 14. This guy had a pretty good season last year, and you know the Chiefs, their offense is always going to be great. And just because from my opinion, what I think personally, that just because he's in that electric offense, this guy just has so many opportunities every play. He doesn't have much competition at the running back role. And you know, at the goal line, like Chiefs have so many things they do. I think CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE is going to get more involved, and that's what makes him a top 14 back this year.
Yeah, with CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE specifically going into this year, last year he was obviously a very big disappointment being taken in the first round of most drafts. But this year now, I mean, Le'Veon Bell is gone. I just want to point out, before Le'Veon Bell came to Kansas City last year, CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE was averaging over 15 fantasy points a game. And I mean, assuming you're drafting CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE as your RB2, maybe even your flex if you're lucky. I mean, I think you're going to be very satisfied with 15 as maybe your minimum. And I mean, he's got so much upside now with the Chiefs. Their offensive line is vastly improved this season. And CLYDE Edwards-HELAIRE, obviously, we know is a very good receiving back, very talented running back as well. If he gets a lot more volume this year and scores a lot more touchdowns, I mean, he's one of the few guys who you could get as like your RB2 and wouldn't really have to overpay for him, but who's truly got top 10 RB upside, especially because of the electric offense that he plays in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just the only cause for concern with CLYDE is obviously the guys surrounding him. So Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. So I think at the goal line and stuff, I think the Chiefs would rather opt to throw the ball with Patrick, and there's really no reason for them to like get the ball out of Patrick's hands. So that's the only thing that worries me about CLYDE a little. But I definitely think he's a better pick this year than he was last year. It's just the Chiefs have just so many weapons. I just don't think they're gonna try to feed CLYDE as much as they should, because Patrick is just so good at football.
So I had CLYDE as a breakout candidate this year, and I think he's really going to have that breakout season this year. And it's because everything is finally coming together for him. His O-line is vastly improved. They brought in a completely new O-line, and it's a lot better. Le'Veon Bell is gone. He has the first round pedigree in the NFL draft. And then also the most important thing for me that I saw was that his touchdown rate was only 2% last year. He was not scoring touchdowns at all. And in an offense like the Chiefs offense, they're going to be scoring so much. They're probably going to be the highest scoring offense in the league. So I think not only is Patrick Mahomes going to be able to get his, Clyde's going to be able to get, he's going to have the opportunity to get 1 to 2 rushing touchdowns a game. And also they're going to throw the ball a lot more to them, as we've seen reports that Patrick Mahomes and Clyde have both emphasized that they want the ball to be thrown to the running backs more. So I think his receiving work could also improve this year. I think this is the year that everything could actually come together. I think last year they tried to ease Clyde in and see like what he's capable of, and I think this is the year that he can really take off.
Yeah, definitely, Davhan. Before you go there, I just want to say the rankings where we all had him ranked. Me, Nav, and Vedant had him at 14, so right where he is. John had him a bit lower at 15, but Rohan had him at 20. So I want you to talk about that. You had him behind Demont, Dobbins, Miles Sanders. So what led you to do that?
So with Clyde, like you guys are making good points. Like offensive line is revamped. Basically no competition in the backfield for touches. My only concern is the overall team touches. Like even with him getting more touches, I can't see him finishing above like RB10. And I know I had him at 20. It's a bit of an exaggeration. I'd say maybe his floor is RB25, just because I'm just concerned about his touches. I don't know. There's guys who can get way more touches. Looking at my list, I know I had Miles Sanders over him. Sanders could easily get more touches. That's just the one thing. And, Nav mentioned his low TD rate. That could go up. But, the Chiefs didn't have issues scoring last year. So why would they just try to instead, change? I don't know. I don't see them trying to change as much as they say they are, because they were 15-1 last year. They lost a game to the Raiders, they were 14-2, sorry, because they benched their starters in week 17. And they lost, the true game they lost was to the Raiders. That was kind of like one of those games where, it's just a fluke game for a team. I just don't see the Chiefs trying to change much, because they were so good. They had injuries that onto the line in the playoffs that kind of destroyed them. But my true cause for concern with Clyde is his touches.
Yeah, Han, adding on to that, actually, I see where you're coming from here. I remember you mentioned the Raiders game. In that Raiders game, the Chiefs were up. They were passing. They kept their passing attack up, and they built a good lead. And then after they got that lead, they started running the ball. They started pounding the rock. That's what allowed the Raiders to come back in that game and eventually win. And so you might think that maybe the Chiefs offense is obviously not go-to to the run game, but maybe they'll be more hesitant with it. Definitely a good thing to keep an eye on, but I personally can't see Clyde finishing past RB20, really.
Yeah. I just want to say, I disagree with what Rohan had to say. His floor right now, he's definitely going to be like the RB15, RB16 range. I think what he finished as last year, that's going to be his floor. He's not going to go lower than that, because last year, Le'Veon Bell was there, the offensive line fell apart. He dealt with some injury issues, and he wasn't very effective at the goal line. I think his touchdown rate was also pretty low. All that stuff is bound to improve and progress to the mean this year. And also, I disagree with your what you think about his ceiling. His ceiling is definitely a top 5 running back. You're forgetting he's the starting running back, the starting workhorse running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the highest scoring team in the NFL.
The team that relies solely on passing, though. A team that doesn't
rely solely on passing.
Their passing is the majority of what they do. We saw them go 15.
What did Kareem Hunt do? What did Kareem Hunt do when he was there?
But was he there for their record-breaking season?
Yes, they won the Super Bowl that year, right?
No, Kareem Hunt was there the year that I believe.
Oh,
it was the year they lost.
Yeah, that was the year that he threw for 50 touchdowns. He threw for 50 touchdowns.
Mahomes did, yes.
Yes, and Kareem Hunt still finished as an RB1, even though he missed 4 games.
He missed half the season.
And he still finished as an RB1.
I'm not sure about that, but
yeah, I think he was RB8 to RB12. He was around that range right there.
But referring to Clyde's floor, right? I'm talking about, I know he's the starting RB for the Chiefs, but I'm saying guys we have below him, Chris Carson, I easily can see him surpassing Clyde. I can see Miles surpassing Clyde. I can see Demont surpassing Clyde. I can see Dobby surpassing Clyde. That's why I have him at a low floor, because these guys are their offenses are more surrounded around what they're capable of. And Clyde's he's more of a complement to what the Chiefs are capable of. So that's just my concern.
Yeah, I just want to say that the guys behind Clyde, they have a guaranteed amount of touches. This guy, he could just not get the touches, because why? There's no reason for the Chiefs to pound the rock. Year after year, Mahomes has success because Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman could emerge maybe. I just don't think that Clyde, like, I think he's better than, he could finish higher than Carson and all the guys we have below him. But his touches aren't guaranteed. The only reason he's this high is because he's on the Chiefs and he's going to get some touchdowns here and there. And he has no competition in the backfield. But I don't think he's like a 20-touch guy. There's no reason for him to get that many touches when the Chiefs are so successful at passing the ball.
Just for Clyde, regarding having like no competition in the backfield, I mean, they did re-sign Darrell Williams, and I mean, at the end of the year, it was Darrell Williams, not Le'Veon Bell, in the playoffs and Super Bowl actually too. It was him who was getting the reps behind Clyde, and even when Clyde was hurt, Darrell Williams was out snapping Le'Veon Bell. So, and now that they re-signed Williams, they clearly like having him around. So, I mean, while Clyde is going to obviously get the significant touches and a lot more than Darrell Williams, I don't think that it's just going to be like a clear workhorse role for him. I think Darrell will definitely be factored in. I could see this being something like a sort of like what they do in Green Bay, what they did in Green Bay with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams.
Turn to the floor though, Rohan, what do you think could go down from what Clyde did last year? Like what possibly could become worse?
I don't think anything really could become worse.
Well, then he was RB15, RB16 last year. How was his floor RB20?
Others could get better.
Yeah,
but other people will also get worse at the same time. Everyone's just not going to.
Well, who do you think will get worse? I mean, the guys we have ahead of him are kind of like really like safe guys. I mean, like we have like Aaron Jones above him, right? Joe Mixon, like if they're healthy.
Okay.
No, but I'm saying if they're healthy, they're simply just not going to finish. I just can't see them finishing below Clyde.
I think he's just a really safe pick at 14 because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he's going to give you, if you draft him at your RB2, I think he's a solid 10 points every week and you don't have to worry about that because of the electric offense he's in. The one point I see is that, like Miles Sanders, like, that 1 week he had a huge run. He could have a boom week more often than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I guess. That's the one argument. But again, this guy, I can't see him finishing that low personally. All right, let's move on now to number 15, who we have. Number 15, we got J.K. Dobbins. Now, J.K. Dobbins coming off a pretty good season last year with the Ravens. The Ravens obviously are more rush-oriented than other NFL offenses. He had 805 yards, 9 touchdowns, and a decent amount of receiving work. I personally don't really like J.K. Dobbins this year. I think he's being overrated compared to his ADP. Because he's going at the end of the first round, start of the second round in most drafts, and I don't really.
He's going like second, third,
and second, early third. You mentioned.
He's never going in the first.
End of the second, early third. So yeah, that's end of the second, early third. So yeah, I don't really agree with that, and that's just my take. Especially because Gus Edwards back on a deal, and the Ravens are looking to get more pass off oriented. They drafted Rashard Bateman, Marquise Brown on a pretty good end of the year last season, and J.K. Dobbins is really not that good of a receiving back. There's so many times, many instances where he's dropped the ball in the end zone.
There's a difference.
All right.
No. So yeah, with Dobbins, sorry, Shree, I'll let you finish one sec. Just with Dobbins, yeah, he's got the receiving talent, but he doesn't get the receptions because Lamar Jackson is just, as we've seen since he's been the Ravens starting quarterback, there hasn't been a single running back who's been able to contribute significantly in the passing game. I mean, Dobbins 18 receptions, 120 receiving yards last year.
Did, right?
Ingram did not really contribute significantly in the passing
touchdowns. He just had 5 receiving.
He had high touchdowns, but he didn't have like that volume.
There's no guy could easily do that this year.
Why? Because with Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins has the talent to do it, but he's not in the system that's not going to allow him to do it. It's Lamar Jackson. So because Lamar Jackson scrambles,
he doesn't dump off.
Yeah, he doesn't dump off. Lamar Jackson likes to take off.
He dumps it off in the red zone. He definitely dumps it off.
In the red zone is such a small portion, though. I mean,
that is the biggest portion. Nothing.
Then how does he have 0 receiving touchdowns?
Pure volume.
Yeah, he had 0 receiving touchdowns last year.
Because they ran the ball with him instead. He had 9 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, but if the Ravens dump off in the red zone and he has 0 receiving touchdowns, that just doesn't add up.
He had 9 rushing touchdowns.
Great point.
He was scoring the ball.
He had 9 rushing touchdowns, but there's been
instances. You're saying they dump it off. Exactly.
It works. No, because with J.K. Dobbins, that's what worked. When they ran the ball with him, he was able to get in the end zone. With Mark Ingram, they had to throw the ball to him. Instead, J.K. Dobbins has the talent, just rush through and get in the end zone.
But again, they brought in Rashad Bateman. They brought in Sammy Watkins. Yeah. So why they're just because last year it worked, right?
What makes you think they're gonna throw it more?
Well, they're
because
signing
they brought in
receivers,
more
right?
guys, and
So,
yeah, they brought in more
They
receivers,
signed
and like
Watkins. They
they've been.
drafted a first-round receiver. I mean, I don't think that's to run the ball more, right? I mean, that's clearly
not to
just
run
trying
the ball more, but they're not going to obviously throw the ball because they drafted a guy. They drafted Marquise Brown in the first round. That didn't change anything.
looking to pass more. Okay, then why else would you? Draft a
Marquise
receiver?
Brown isn't
Just tell me,
good.
why else would you draft a receiver? What do you want a receiver for?
To have more balance, that's all. But
To throw the
nothing
ball
else.
more, right? To throw the ball more.
I don't think they know running the ball works, so they're just gonna focus on that, abuse that as much as they can.
I
What,
don't
do you
know.
not like J.K. Dobbins this year, Roman?
No, I like Dobby, but my point,
How you
like what
hating?
I'm not trying to hate. I'm just trying to make a point. And the
Just
thing with
making
me
a
is,
point.
I like Swift better than Dobby. I have no like I physically I don't understand why anyone would have Dobby over Swift because Dobby has competition from Lamar, from Gus Edwards. Ravens bringing in Bateman, Watkins, Mark Andrews is there in the red zone to potentially steal touchdowns as well. Lamar's legs could steal red zone touchdowns as well. We have Jamal Williams in Detroit for Swift, although we're not talking about Swift, but I just want to quickly mention this. Swift is already, like, his coaches say they want to give him 25 touches, so I would easily have Swift over Dobbins, but I do like Dobbins. I did at 17. I think that's a good spot for him, personally.
Yeah, just going over the rankings again, Don, before you go ahead, 1 second here. Everybody really had him at 15. John had him at 15. Don had him at 16. Nav had him at 15. Han had him at 16, and I had him at 17. So I kind of went a bit lower, but he's a good pick, right? I'm not arguing I'm not arguing that he's a bad pick, but I think he's overrated. And don't be surprised if he disappoints you some weeks.
No, yeah, Dobbins is the one guy, or maybe not the one guy, but one of the guys on this list who he could really bust, and like kind of if he was like your RB2, you're gonna have to spend a good pick on him. He's like a guy who really could bust and sort of collapse your team. I mean, I like him. I had an RB15, so I think he's gonna have a good year. But if there's a guy who could bust, I think it's him, just because not a lot of relevant receiving work. And as we know, Gus Edwards is still there to steal touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's gonna steal touchdowns. So just something to keep an eye on. But I mean, I still think he's a talented player. Like I said, I had him at RB15. So
personally, I can't see J.K. Dobbins bust this year because they run the Ravens. They run for minimum 3,000 yards a season. Sure, Lamar will take 1,200 yards of that piece of the pie. That leaves 1,800 yards left or something. And J.K. Dobbins, it's not impossible to see him rush for 1,500 yards, and I think about 1,100 yards. That's going to be his floor. And I think double-digit touchdowns this year in that Ravens offense, it could be like a lock this year because of how much they've run the ball and how successful he was in the red zone. So honestly, I can't really see him bust in fantasy this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't want this guy as my RB2. I think he has very little. I think like RB, like end of the second round, early third round is kind of his ceiling. I don't see him finishing above like any of the top. Yeah, because any of the guys we mentioned, because he doesn't have any consistent receiving work, I don't think. And the upside gets capped because Lamar runs the ball so much, and they have Gus Edwards they signed to a deal. Plus, I think he won't get as many carries as he should because they're obviously going to focus on throwing more with Sammy Watkins and Rashad Bateman. So this guy, he's safe. If you want like a safe option for your RB2, if you draft like a shaky RB1, like a Saquon kind of guy. But I don't think he has any upside. This is a ceiling basically.
Yeah, I think he's one of the safest picks right now.
Right. And so now, just moving on from Dobbins, now we have DeAndre Swift at number 16. This guy, last season, first game, didn't have the greatest start to his career in the NFL, but he's picked it up after that. 521 rushing yards is a decent total, but his receiving work is what stands out. Those 48 receptions definitely helped out PPR owners. 10 total touchdowns in the year is not bad, especially for a rookie. And this guy, now with Stafford out there and Galladay out of the Lions offense, the Lions are going to be a bit more run heavy. So they did pick up Jamal Williams, and so it's a bit shaky on this guy. But number 16, I personally think he's a decent pick there. So let's just go over where we had him ranked. John had Swift at 16, and then Don had him at 19. Nav had him at 16. Han had him at 12, and I had him at 16. So pretty much 16, a little bit later there, and then Han obviously had him earlier. So Han, do you want to start us off here? Why you have him this high?
Yep. Just one thing I want to say. I have him at 13.
13, my bad.
Yeah. No, all good. But yeah, I like Swift. I like his situation. You know, everyone's talking about Jamal Williams. You know, Anthony Lynn, you know, likes this whole committee stuff. But, you know, the Lions coaches have already said they want to get him 25 touches. You know, that's not going to happen. Nobody gets that. Like, no matter who you are, you're not getting that. It's just too much. But the point is that they're saying that they want to give him the ball. So, like, they trust this guy. They don't want to just, like, make him this a 50-50 with Jamal Williams. He's going to get the touches, even if it doesn't seem like it. And the Lions have no competition for touches. And even if they're down in games, right? We say they're down in games, why they pass the ball. Swift is a capable receiver. He had 46 receptions last year. That's plenty for a rookie, right? And, you know, Jamal Williams, he could steal that, but they could also run 2 running back sets because, you know, clearly they don't have many weapons. So I see, like, he's just bound to get the touches. He's bound to get the work. So, like, why would you, like, I would have him over guys like, you know, J.K. Dobbins, where if he does get the work that we expect, he could have a great year, but he also might not get the work. But Swift he has to get the work. There's just nobody else who could take it from him.
Well, I mean, like we're saying, Jamal Williams is there to take the work from him. Jamal Williams is an excellent pass blocking running back, and he's obviously a bigger back than Swift too. To be honest, I think Swift will still be the primary goal line back, but Jamal could take some touchdowns just because he's got the big frame to run in for touchdowns, and he's a good receiving back too. So Jamal is going to take work from Swift. There's no denying that. And also with Swift, the Lions offense, yeah, the O-line is vastly improved, but the offense as a whole it could easily be the worst offense in the entire NFL this year. It wouldn't shock me to see the Lions picking first overall next season. So, I mean, you have no guarantee that Swift, yeah, maybe he'll get a lot of touches, but I mean, how long is that offense really going to be on the field? How many scoring opportunities is this offense going to have? You got to think about it like that too. How often is the run game going to be scripted out for the Lions? I mean, probably fairly often with how bad we expect the offense to be this year. I mean, the wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown might be the wide receiver 1 right now. So, I mean, just because of that, and, you know, we like Amon-Ra St. Brown here, and that's not shade at him or anything, but, I mean, just because of how bad I expect the offense to be, in the presence of Jamal Williams, I can't justify taking Swift very high.
I mean, I truly don't see the offense being that bad. I think they have a solid offensive line, solid running back purely. Jared Goff is not as bad as people think. The guy who went to the Super Bowl, like, he's just not that bad. You know, the team will be terrible. I mean, yeah, so what? He was 3 years ago.
I mean, last year, Jared Goff.
What has changed? Not really. I mean, he played good some games. He also played bad sometimes, which is a good
he threw
point.
20 touchdowns. I mean,
but he also didn't have the support of his own coach.
All right. Jared Goff is like whatever, right? But their defense is atrocious. It is really, really bad.
Exactly.
They're not going to have the opportunity to run the ball. Jared Goff has no one to throw to other than T.J. Hawkinson. Like, how are they going to move the ball? I mean, I don't really know. But I think that's why DeAndre Swift definitely has some upside, but it's going to be like capped to a point. Like, I can't see him finishing inside that top 12 because of how anemic this Lions team as a whole is just going to be.
Anemic? Okay.
Yeah, and go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Just the final point is they lost Marvin Jones, who had like 120 targets last year. Kenny Golladay, he was hurt, but you can assume he would have gone for maybe around 100 targets as well. So, and we know what Jared Goff does with running backs. He had Todd Gurley, and Todd Gurley had like 82 seasons of 80 targets and like 60 receptions. So Jared Goff definitely feeds his running backs, and I think DeAndre Swift is a good rusher too. I was high on him at the end of last season, but then it really got really bad for him when Matt Stafford left, Golladay left, Jones left. They brought in Jamal Williams, so
Danny Amendola left.
Yeah, Danny Amendola left. So the receptions, I definitely like. They would have gone. Like, he would have been, I think, like a 75 reception guy. But Jamal Williams is going to cut into that. So it's just he's a good player on a just really bad offense. So he's a shaky RB2 for me.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure to go check out our bust video. We covered a bit more in depth on DeAndre Swift. We have a couple more reasons why he could bust and why he is not good relative to his ADP. But let's move on right now. Going to number 17, we got Chris Carson. Chris Carson, of course, you might know, was injured last year, but he is really a great producer for fantasy. Still had 600 plus rushing yards, and his receiving work is great with that chemistry with Russell Wilson. And Rashard Penny is coming back as well, but Chris Carson really, I think he's a great workhorse running back, and he's great near the goal line, as you saw 5 touchdowns in just a shortened amount of games he played. Let's go where we had Chris Carson ranked. John had him at 18. Don had him at 15. Nav had him at 17. Han had him at 13, and I have him at 18. So I have a little more spread out here in terms of where we have Carson. Some people have it in front, some people have him a bit further away. So what do we think about this guy, guys?
No, just want to start off. Carson is he's one of the safest running backs that you could pick for your RB2, to be honest. I mean, RB18, that's where I have him ranked. I think that could be his floor. But then like RB12 is the guy's ceiling, just because we know the Seahawks are going to be a lot more run heavy this season. Let Russ cook's no longer happening, but the offense is still extremely talented. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson. So he's still going to be playing in a great offense. He's a very underrated receiver as well. I mean, 37 receptions in a limited amount of games last season. He's going to get the workload too. I mean, Rashad Penny is behind him. He's a talented running back, but I mean, he didn't play it. I think he barely played at all last season because of his injuries. So I mean, they're not going to just jump right in and start giving Rashad Penny work behind Chris Carson. So I mean, at least for the start of the year, Chris Carson's going to have that safe floor, and he's going to have a decently high ceiling, 20, 25 points too. I mean, because he could score a couple touchdowns. So I think he's a guy who, if you get him as your RB2, is a very safe pick for your RB2. He doesn't have a ton of upside, but he doesn't have a ton of downside either.
Right, and one thing I wanted to add now, real quick, where would you take him, John, in like your average draft? Like, where are you looking at him? Because I see you have him ranked as like not much of a breakout, but not much of a bust.
Yeah, I would take Chris Carson probably end of the third round, and end of the third round, and then beginning of the fourth round, middle of the fourth round. I mean, if he's there, like, say I have pick 35 in the league and Chris Carson's there, I mean, I feel like I kind of feel compelled to take him at that point.
I'd jump on that for me.
Yeah.
If Carson's at 35, take Carson. Carson is so safe. And we're talking about his ceiling at RB12. This is just something it's just something that you can't really take with so much, because like the guys above him are like, they're great. Like, they're great guys. Like Aaron Jones, he's not going to finish fast enough if Aaron Jones is healthy. It's not going to happen. But like at the same time, like, I mean, can we really see like the other? I mean, personally for me, I can't see, if we're talking about top 12, you know, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Zeke, Chubb, you know, CMC, Dalvin, those guys. Like, I can't see like Clyde finishing above those guys. I can't see Dobby finishing above those guys. So it's like the same with Carson. Like, but he's so small. Like the Seahawks, like, they've made it clear they want to run the ball. Rashad Penny is this guy's competition for touches, and then DJ Dallas, you know, irrelevant guy. So we have Rashad Penny, right? But bro had surgery last year, came back, had another surgery this offseason. So like, what is he really gonna do? Like, Carson is just so safe this year.
Yeah, he also he re-signed this year. I think it was a 2-year deal. Also, something I just wanted to point out, what I want to say, Chris Carson is probably my favorite pick at like the 3rd, 4th round turn. Like, he's just perfect there, because you can start out with 2 running backs with your first 2 picks, and then pick them as your flex or something, and then you don't need to touch running backs for another 5, 6 rounds. You can just hammer out those wide receivers, tight end, pick a quarterback or something later. Chris Carson's gonna be that perfect guy to like he can mold your team really. If he's your RB2, I'm completely okay with that too. He's just gonna be such a safe pick this year, and there's really, his floor is RB20 at the worst.
Yeah, I think he's down here. He's the I think he'd be like the first guy to be an RB1. I think he'd finish over Clyde, Swift, Dobbins, all of that. But the only reason he's this low is because of obviously the injury concerns. This guy gets injured a lot. But down here, I think he has the most upside out of everyone we've listed, from like Clyde to Swift.
All right, moving on now to our last running back of today. We have DARRELL Henderson. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention to the news, this may come as a bit of a surprise, but with Cam Akers, the running back, Los Angeles Rams running back, star running back, being injured, torn Achilles, out for the year, DARRELL Henderson has seen a significant boost in his ADP. He wasn't being drafted until a late round flyer up until now, but with the injury now, he's definitely the #1 running back in the Rams offense. Rams, of course, after acquiring Stafford, are pushing for a deep playoff run, maybe even a shot at a Super Bowl. And but Henderson, even though he's in that good of an offense, he can be placed above the guys we discussed so far, and he could definitely fall further depending on more news that comes out. He had a decent season for not being the starting running back all the time, but it's kind of uncertain with this guy, and it's your personal preference whether you trust him or not. So what do we think about him?
Truly, sad to see what happened to Akers. I know Nav was a little sad about that. Had a plan to get an RB at one of his picks in the draft. And then, we see Henderson. He's like, oh, top 14 guy here. A little bit of a recency bias thing. Yeah. With Henderson, Nav was making good. Nav would say, right, that, what separates this guy from Akers other than talent, because Akers is better, but he'll get the touches. He's not like, we have him. I feel like if he stays healthy, it's just a concern of, will the Rams bring in new guys? Well, how will the touches flow in the backfield? But like, if he gets the strong touches, like 18's like, if you get him at 8, like as the RB 18, like I really don't think that's bad at all. Just because if he's healthy and he's getting the touches, it's just a question of right now, as of now, he seems like the clear guy who will get the touches from the backfield. They haven't signed anybody. Nobody's really emerged. So yeah.
I want to point out something about Darrell Henderson. He is dealing with an injury. Last year, he left the year. He had a pretty severe high ankle sprain, and he didn't return after. He got injured week 15, week 16, didn't return the rest of the season. And now we've seen he's been like popping up on some injury reports, like, oh, we don't know if he's going to play, pup list, something like that. And now Sean McVay came out and said he's not going to play at all in the preseason. Now he framed it like, oh, it's because he's our lead running back. We want to make sure he's like healthy and stuff. But that means he's not healthy right now, and that's going to be a problem if he's actually not healthy. You never want to pick someone in your fantasy draft when you're drafting and a player's not healthy. Don't even like try and risk it, because injuries. You don't want to like go out and try and find players who already are injured, because that just means that they're probably going to get injured even more. Like what we saw with Michael Thomas last year, especially Christian McCaffrey. That was a huge one. So, that's all I got to really say. Darrell Henderson is going to be like a safe RB2 if he's healthy, but if he's not, there's going to be a whole mess.
Yeah, I don't even think he's a safe RB2. I think this guy is going to be like one of the most annoying players to start. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from him week in, week out. I think he's going to be a pretty risky RB2, honestly, because in that offense, I think he could get like 10, 11 touches one week and then have like 5 touches the next week. I just don't think, and there's still time left in the offseason where they could trade for someone or sign a running back, which would just make he'd just be like, really, like, he wouldn't even be a flex consideration. So I think there's a lot of risk with him. And there's a talent question too. So yeah, I really don't like Darrell Henderson as your RB2.
I feel like the point you're making about the touches is kind of like from last year, because like last year with the whole trio of Akers, Brown, and Henderson, some weeks, like you would get 10 touches, then you get 5, some weeks you wouldn't play, some weeks you get like 15 touches. But like Brown's gone, Akers is gone, Xavier Jones is the next guy up. And until they sign somebody, where do you see the concern for touches?
I think they can just thrust Xavier Jones in. I just don't think Darrell Henderson is going to be the workhorse running back for this team. I think it's going to get really annoying when you see these Xavier Jones or like Raymond Calais get 5 touches in this offense. I think that's the type of. It's going to be like a San Francisco kind of situation where just random guys are rushing for 100 yards.
Yeah, and Sean McVay, very recently, I think it might have been today or yesterday, he actually came out and said that with Henderson, the question's not about his talent for the Rams. It's about how do we keep the guy on the field. So his durability is clearly a concern for them. So they're not just going to throw him out there into a 3-down back every down role. Xavier Jones is definitely going to factor in to some degree. He's obviously like unheard of only until this Cam Akers injury. So, to what extent he's used is yet to be seen. But Henderson, he's a very risky RB2, I think, at least to open the year. And does he have that much upside either? I only see downside with this guy. I'd want him. I would not even take him as my RB2 personally. I would only take Henderson as a flex. I think in our rankings, I'm not even sure I had him in my top 24. So, if I can get him as a flex, sure, just because at that point there is upside as a flex. But as your RB2, there's just little to no upside to be had with him. And there's just a lot of risk and downside to be had if you took Darrell Henderson.
But at the same time,
19 or 20, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's RB 18 right now. Like
I had him at 19 or 20.
I don't think I had him in my top 24.
Bro, I know you did. I was
all right.
I didn't.
So for Henderson, like you said, there's no upside, right? I think I have to disagree with that because I think there is upside. In the first 5 weeks of the season, he came out strong, rushed for he had 19 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points. Now at the latter end of the season, when Akers got more comfortable and familiarized with his role as the RB1 of that offense, of course Henderson's production went down. But I think he still has chances to boom some weeks, especially when he's playing some of the worst run defenses in the league. I think he can definitely hit RB1 numbers and be a consistent producer those weeks. Now, I completely understand what you're saying, where injuries and Xavier Jones could cut in, but with Henderson, if you monitor him closely, you like him the first couple weeks. If you see him and you like him the first couple weeks, I mean, if you like what you see, he can be a good running back for the rest of the season. He could definitely overperform. I completely agree with what you're saying with the underperforming, but I think there still is upside for that pick.
So I think he's going to be a little matchup dependent this year as well. If he's going to go against an elite defense, maybe the 49ers or something, I think Darrell Henderson won't be really start worthy. I think he's going to be on that cusp this year, really, because he's not in a good matchup. Say if they're playing a weak defense, I don't know, Seahawks like they were last year, I think he's going to be a pretty solid RB2, high-end RB2. But if on a bad week, when he's playing a tough defense like the 49ers, he could be down in the 30s or something. So I think he could definitely, there's going to be places where he's going to be safe, when he's playing these middle of the pack teams. But there's also going to be matchups where he's going to be volatile. So you just got to make sure of that.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying I'd rather have him as my flex than anything else, because if my guys, my RB1 and RB2, those are guys who I want to know, regardless of the matchup, regardless of who they're playing, these guys will get me my points. But with Henderson, I mean, you just pointed out, against a bad run defense, the guy could have a great week, but against a bad run defense, he could have a great week, but against a good run defense, he could really just have a terrible week. Rams could rely a lot more on the passing game. I just want to point out too, I did not have Henderson in my top 24, so I would only take him as a flex. I see very little upside to be associated with him as an RB2.
So do you guys think that the issue is his touches or his talent?
I think it's going to be the fact that the Rams they're already coming out and saying, we want to keep the guy on the field. And so what can we do to make sure he doesn't get hurt? So they're already concerned about his durability. And
but we're saying that if we're playing a bad defense, why would they want to run him out there? If they're playing a bad defense, I mean, wouldn't they rather use them against the better defenses because they actually need to score more points? They need more weapons in that situation.
Well, the passing game is going to be a lot more consistent this year too, with the addition of Stafford.
They had the plan of using Akers, so
Akers is a lot different than Henderson. I mean, I think Akers' talent compared to Henderson's talent is not really a question. Akers is a better pass catcher.
Akers is more talented, but Henderson
Henderson,
the reason his role was diminished was because he got hurt, and then but he was doing good. He got hurt, and then Akers emerged. So the guy isn't just some clear second fiddle talent-wise, because otherwise Akers would have started from the beginning of the year, or he would have had more touches at the beginning of the year, right?
Looking at what Akers did down the stretch, I think he is a clear second fiddle talent-wise, because Henderson might have had some decent games, sure, but he never did what Akers did, and Henderson also, he doesn't get he's a lot like Shree said, he's not the receiving back that Akers is. Akers is a much better receiving back than he gets credit for, I think. But Henderson, I just don't think he's very good receiving back at all.
Henderson didn't play. He didn't play at the end of the year.
When he did play, weeks 2, 3, 4, he combined for 4 receptions in 3 games. Week 5, if you want to add that in, week 5, that was his best receiving game of the year. That was 3 receptions for 30 yards. So.
But in these games, he was not getting the touches. He was
getting the touches. Weeks 2 through 5, he's getting the touches. He's their lead running back.
He's getting the rushing touches. He's getting the rushing touches.
He's not getting the receiving
in an offense with 3 running backs dominating the touches. The 2 guys that bothered him last year are gone. Xavier Jones. Nobody knew who Xavier Jones was. Nobody knew who Xavier Jones was until the second Akers got hurt. So this guy is he's not. How is he going to be some threat? They wanted to clearly they brought Stafford and they want to revamp their passing game. It doesn't mean the running game's not just going to go nowhere. And half the time, the running back receptions are off designed plays in the Rams offense for the running backs. It's not always dump offs.
Screens and stuff. Yeah.
Screens, misdirections.
To answer your question, Han, I think it is the touches, because I think Henderson's plenty talented. Well, there's 2 things to it, right? The injury, right? Injury limits touches and talent. Because obviously an injured guy is going to be less talented than him before the injury. So you just got to monitor his injury and monitor his uses. And then that just completely has an impact on his touches and talent, depending on his injury. So that's pretty much what it boils down to. You got to make sure if he's healthy Henderson, I think I would have him at 18. I would have healthy Henderson at 18. But with the recent reports of his durability, that's what drops him down lower. And if you're drafting like in the end of August, definitely make sure if you're thinking about drafting at the end of August, you have that pick. You think you can get a Henderson, make sure to keep your eyes glued on those injury reports. Like you want to make sure those are on par before you completely commit to this guy. So with that, we're just going to wrap up today's running backs that we did. We did 13 to 18. Make sure to watch the other 2 videos if you haven't seen them already. We kind of touched base on some of those guys in this video. And make sure to look out for our next and final running back ranking video where we go 19 through 24. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment who you agree with most in this list. Thank you and see you in the next one.